Hi there. Now I recently did a video showing how you can join sheets of balsa side by side like this. And the most common reason for doing that I use it for anyway, is for when I'm going to sheet a wing. I much prefer joining the balsa into a big piece and then putting it on the wing rather than trying to put them on individually. I find I get much better results. But after this video, or a comment on the video was, well, okay, that's great, it's really useful, but if we've got a sheet that's wide enough but not long enough, how do we join it together to extend the length of a sheet of balsa? And that's what I'm going to show you how to do in this video. What essentially we need to do is to create a scarf joint which increases the surface area of the join. We could glue them together like that, butt them end on, but there's not a great surface area there and it won't be particularly strong. Far better, like I said, we do a scarf joint, we join them together with a greater surface area and they'll be a lot stronger. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do. So I'll just move the camera so you're focused on the bench and we'll get that done. Okay, so as I said, what we need to do is increase the surface area of the gluing surfaces. So we're going to cut the end of this balsa at an angle, and we're going to do, I mean, there's no hard and fast rule that I know for doing the angle, but the more you do the angle, the greater the surface area, the stronger the joint. But obviously we don't want to do it too big an angle, so I generally go for, I don't know, about 45 degrees or perhaps a little bit more. So we'll do this at about 45 degrees and then we'll glue these two together. So there we go. What we need to do is just cut our first piece, and we need to use a nice sharp blade, and we need to make sure that we get a nice square cut if this is going to join together well. Because if it's not a square cut, the mating surfaces aren't going to be perfect. So we've done that. Now we need to cut this other piece of balsa at the same angle so we can glue them together. Now, rather than just putting this on here and just thinking, oh well, that looks about right, we'll do that, what we can do is we can use a straight edge, and so we line up the two pieces of balsa along this straight edge. So now we know that this is a completely nice straight line rather than a little bit sort of crooked like a banana. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that, I'll tell you what, let me move this around like this and do that again. And we'll turn that one up there. I'm just thinking the best way for me to cut this. So we'll line that up against that straight edge like that. So now we have the cut piece on top of the piece that needs cutting, and we've got the angle coming nice for a good cut there. So we'll line this up, make sure it's nice and straight on this straight edge. We'll put the ruler up against it, take that away, and now we can cut along there. So we're just going to, oops, did I move that? Let me just check this again, because there's a little bit of glue on my bench. I think it just got caught on. So let's just make sure this is just right. Yeah, there we go. So we've got that now. Let's see if I can slide that without moving the ruler. And now we're just going to cut another nice straight edge so we get a good joint. There we go. Now hopefully, if we line up these two pieces of balsa, they should form a nice joint. But what we need to do is put our straight edge there just to make sure. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it on some plastic like this, so that when we finally glue them, we don't glue it to the bench. Right, so we've got our two pieces of balsa, we've got our straight edge, and we need some tape. This is magic tape. I find it really useful for this kind of stuff. I'm going to put a couple of weights on this side of the balsa, And this side I'm going to pull towards it with some tape to glue it, or stick it together should I say, just temporarily while we glue it. So we just bend the end of the tape over so we can get it off easy. We'll stick that on there. We'll just make sure this is lined up nicely, and then we'll pull this nice and tight. There we go. Now if this is nice and tight, that end will probably lift up a little bit perhaps. It would do if it was shorter anyway. It's got the weight of the balsa holding it down. So now we'll put on another piece of tape. There we go. And now we have a nice pull together, nice tight joint there. And so we're going to glue that. And if I just lift that up, we can just see there we've got that pulled together nicely. We're not going to glue this side. We're going to turn this over and glue the underside, or the other side. So we've got some thin CA, bit of tissue, and all I'm going to do, in fact, let me just put that on there. I think that's flat anyway, but just to be sure, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the CA along the joint and it will wick in, and then I'm just going to wipe off any excess, because CA excess on the crust, it can form a crust and it's just harder to get rid of. It's not brilliant to get rid of. So we'll just run the CA along like that and then wipe off the excess. There we go. And I'll just use one of my sanding sticks just to make sure. And now that is looking really nice. But we're not going to do just that. We're going to turn this over. We're going to take off the tape. There we go. And we're just going to run some CA along the joint on this side as well. Let me just put that on there. I just put the weight on there so that when I rub it, the balsa's not moving everywhere or anywhere. There. Now this is quite hard balsa, so it's not particularly flexible in the first place. Now I can hardly feel that joint. That is really nice. So there we go. Now that is now one long piece of balsa that is nice and straight, because we've used this straight edge to make sure that it is nice and straight, and it's still quite flexible. So there we go. Now we have one super long piece of balsa, and I don't know whether I said this at the start of the video, but the kind of application I would use this, and I have used it in the past, is for fuselage sides. My Avanti, my Great Plains Trainer 60, and I think a Das Ugly stick I built a few years ago. I couldn't get sheets long enough, and so I just did a scarf joint. And sometimes you have doublers in fuselages. I certainly do on the Avanti Patterns plane and the Great Plains Trainer 60. And if there are doublers, then it's always good to do the scarf joint, if you can, where the doubler is, and that just gives you that little bit more strength. But now we have a really good strong piece of balsa, which is still quite flexible. I mean, this is 1/16 balsa, but it's quite hard balsa. But anyway, I hope you found that useful and interesting. Thanks very much for watching. There we go, nice and strong.